Drag, do you believe we can get a dog as big as an elephant? We know there's animals as big as an elephant, like an elephant. I mean, given enough time, processes, what do you think?
What do you mean get a dog as big as an elephant?
Well, do you believe that there's limits to the change that we see, right? Like, do you believe that a population of dogs today, ultimately based on the theory of universal common ancestry, came from something that was non-dog long ago and far away? Go ahead.
I don't know what you mean by came from non-dog. What does that mean?
Well, just because these gentlemen were saying that obviously dogs, elephants, fleas, and banana plants are all related through common ancestry. So I'm just saying that given what we observe today, dogs producing dogs, and I understand the law of monophily, we can't outgrow our ancestry, but based on universal common descent, what did dogs today descend from ultimately? Go ahead.
So you're referring to a nested hierarchy and not what's evolutionary possible. Yeah, those are kind of two different ends of the question.
Well, I would say that the creationist model also predicts a nested hierarchy, but just invoking a nested hierarchy doesn't exactly prove that dogs, elephants, and banana plants are actually related. Say
Well,
on that phylogenetic tree.
you don't prove anything in science for one. You demonstrate things. So
I
if we're
agree.
going to actually discern what happens in science, we need to use the correct vernacular and acknowledge what's actually in the literature.
Can you explain to the audience what the law of monophily is?
Sure, I'll just get the dictionary definition. That's fine.
Well, like obviously we could never outgrow our ancestry, right? A eukaryote will always be a eukaryote. Elephants and pine trees are related through common ancestry because they're both eukaryotes, right? A eukaryote will never not be a eukaryote. A dog will never not be a dog. A mammal will not ever be a mammal. But at some point, there must have been some big change, right? Because at some point, there was something that was non-mammal, and eventually we had mammals. So I'm just asking you a simple question. Do you believe there are limits to the
It doesn't matter what I personally believe. You do know that that's an argument from incredulity, right?
Well, I'm saying that based on the theory of universal common ancestry.
You're going to answer my question?
Well, I think, no, I understand what you're saying. It's what science can demonstrate, because science means to know.
So we do know that the question you just asked was directly an argument from incredulity. Are we acknowledging that?
I don't think I agree with that for this reason.
Okay.
Because if I were to say, do you believe that, the moon is made out of green cheese, I think we can all agree that it's not.
No, a demonstrably false statement and saying what I personally believe about this particular field being true are two different things. So what my personal beliefs have no bearing on scientific fact.
Okay, here's a better question then. Would you say that
before we move on, we do acknowledge that that is an argument from incredulity, correct?
Even if I were to say that that was an argument,
it's a yes or no.
I don't think I do, because what you personally believe, if it's not actually scientific, but you're saying it is scientific, then why is that an argument from incredulity?
Okay, again, my personal beliefs, what I personally, as Dragnauct, believe has no bearing on what is scientific fact. What part of that is confusing?
Because, well, I think you're using word semantics, but even if I were
word semantics,
even if for sake of argument, I were to say it is an argument from incredulity, it still doesn't help you answer the questions that I'm asking.
Well, it doesn't. It wasn't meant to answer a question. It was meant to discern the difference between my personal beliefs and what's actually demonstrably true.
Can you tell me what you personally believe and what you believe is not what you believe, but what science says is demonstrably true?
Sure, I can tell you what's in the literature. My personal beliefs are going to align with the evidence, the preponderance of evidence in the field.
Now, okay, do you think, based on the scientific literature, that it states and demonstrates that dogs, elephants, fleas, and banana plants are related through common ancestry?
Sure, that is actually demonstrably true.
Do you believe that it is demonstrably true, based on the scientific literature, that a population of dogs today that we see today ultimately did come from something that was non-dog long ago and far away? Go ahead.
Again, I don't know what a non-dog is.
What would that creature be Okay, so obviously we got abiogenesis, which is
Are we talking about evolution now, or are we talking about abiogenesis? Because those are two different topics.
no, exactly. That's why I
Well, then why are you asking me about? Well, why are you asking me about evidence in one field and you're asking me about another?
Well, because I'm trying to make my point here, because abiogenesis is separate from evolution.
Yeah. So then why are you asking me about evidence in one field for the topic that we're talking about here, which is evolution?
Now, the word evolution is a slippery term, because what I'm saying is, if you mean by
it's
evolution,
not slippery. No,
dogs
you're
and
not
wolves are related.
You're not answering my question. Why are you asking me about abiogenesis if we're talking about evolution?
I never actually connected abiogenesis with evolution.
Okay, so then why is abiogenesis being brought up in this conversation then, if you're not making a connection to it?
Because you're wondering what a non-dog is, and I'm trying to say that based on abiogenesis, at one point, this is before evolution, because my definition of evolution is a change in allele frequency or gene pool in populations over time. Would you say that that's your definition of evolution as well?
I don't have a personal definition for that. It is the definition of what is purported in the field.
So based on the scientific literature and based on the textbook definition of evolution, would you say that that was an accurate definition that I provided? Change in allele frequency in populations over time?
Yes, what you provided is an accurate depiction.
Now the question is, are there limits to that change? And that's what this whole line of questioning is. You don't know what a non-dog is. I'm trying to say that based on the acronym FARM, fish, amphibian, reptile, mammal, at some point there was recognizably something that was non-dog that had to evolve through evolutionary processes, natural selection and mutation, into what we know today as a non-dog. Are you disagreeing with that?
Are you referring to, I still know my mouse is a non-dog, and by that definition. So are you talking about wolves?
I would say that a wolf, a domestic dog, a coyote, a dingo are all related through common ancestry, but I believe that there's limits. There's a barrier to that change. But I'm asking you if you believe that there is a limit and a barrier to that change. Do you believe that dogs and mice are related through common ancestry? Because that's where I say there's a limit. I don't believe that.
I'm not sure what you mean by there being a limitation and what that has to do with common ancestry. I'm honestly not seeing the connection between the two.
Well, when we look at the acronym FARM, fish, amphibian, reptile, mammal,
where are we getting that from? Okay, that actually I meant to ask you, where does FARM come from? I've literally never heard of that.
Well, if we look at the theory of universal common descent, obviously I'm not saying abiogenesis is part of that, but that would say that non-living chemicals evolved into that single-celled organism into a multi-celled organism, into a fish, into an amphibian, reptile, mammal, bird, monkey, human, and so on. That's what the theory states.
That's actually not an accurate depiction of what happened, but is that what your understanding is?
No, that is actually the understanding. What I'm saying is, to go from that and to see those changes will take phenomenal increases and expansion in novel information into the genome. So if we don't see that today, how can you say that based on the scientific literature that is actually empirically verified? Go ahead.
So your statement is that we don't actually see evolution in the current day.
Well, it depends on your meaning of evolution, because like I said,
didn't we just define that? Didn't we literally just define that?
Well, are you talking about change in allele frequency populations over time, or are you talking
I literally could have sworn you and I just sussed out what the definition was, and then you asked me if that was acceptable. So now why are we questioning the definition that we both agreed on?
No, we agree that that's the definition of evolution. We see change.
So if we agreed that, then why are we challenging it now?
Because if you're going to say that fish, monkeys, and banana plants are related through common ancestry, then that's not the type of evolution that I'm referring to. Because a change in allele frequency in populations over time does not mean that a fish and a banana plant are related through common ancestry.
We can extrapolate the way that